We told you it was going to happen, Trump DOJ lawyers. Now your bar license may go bye-bye. Now you may go to prison. You know what? You don't have absolute immunity. Now your lives may be destroyed like the other lawyers that came before you who worked for Donald Trump. You know, maybe you should have listened to the warnings of, say, Michael Cohen, who went to Otisville Federal Penitentiary for being Donald Trump's lawyers. Did his warning not do it? How about all the other Trump lawyers who quit or who weren't paid or who Trump threw under the bus? That wasn't good enough. You thought that you were gonna be different. You thought you were such a good lawyer, you'd be able to navigate it. Nope. Donald Trump's throwing you under the bus in one of the most egregious ways yet. You supporting Donald Trump's policy of kidnapping migrants and throwing them into extermination camps in foreign countries before federal judges and violating their orders. Guess what? Those federal judges aren't that happy with you, Trump DOJ lawyers. Now you're in the crosshairs of the federal judges who are pissed. So let me show you what went down. So we know that federal judge Boasberg in Washington, D.C. issued an order finding that the Trump regime, there was probable cause to hold them in criminal contempt, not civil, criminal contempt, such that if the Trump DOJ isn't going to prosecute, Judge Boasberg can appoint a special counsel that goes outside of the Trump DOJ process and goes and prosecutes these Trump lawyers and Trump officials who defied the court's order. Let me just read for you the order. Let me show you what Donald Trump said when he was asked about this order. Was he going to help his lawyers? No, it's Donald Trump. He ain't going to help you. He loves to see his own people suffer and everybody suffer. Judge Boasberg's order from April 16, 2025, 11:57 a.m. Order. Given the finding of probable cause for contempt set forth in the accompanying memorandum opinion, the court orders that 1, if defendants, Trump regime is the defendants, opt to purge their criminal contempt, they shall file by April 23rd, 2025, a declaration explaining the steps they have taken and will take to do so. And 2, if defendants opt not to purge their contempt, they shall instead file by April 23rd, 2025, declarations identifying the individuals who, with knowledge of the court's class-wide temporary restraining order, made the decision not to halt the transfer of class members out of U.S. custody on March 15th and 16, 2025, signed by Chief Judge James Boasberg on April 16, 2025. I'm not saying the judge followed our advice, but this is what we predicted a smart judge would do, which is Trump has absolute immunity based on the Supreme Court's decision. So unfortunately, not much you can do there. What are you going to do? Fine? Monetarily penalize the Trump regime for what they're doing? It's our taxpayer dollars. It's not Donald's personal money. So what, you're going to transfer tax dollars from the Trump regime to the court back to the federal government? That don't really make sense. But I said, what was the soft spot? The bar licenses of these Trump lawyers, the people who are enabling this, the DOJ officials who aid and abet the Trump regime's unlawful conduct. They need to be held accountable, such that if they're not going to reflect the appropriate ethical standards, like candor to the court, compliance with court orders, well then they should get repercussions. That's why the criminal contempt is against them. The Trump lawyers, the Trump State Department officials, all of those people who were involved in this chain of command from the top level to the bottom, and they're going to say, but Judge, we were following the orders. We were just following the orders. Should we look at the Nuremberg trials for precedent? You were just following the orders. You were violating court orders. You knew better, and you should not have done this. So Trump is asked in the Oval Office, Judge Boasberg said the Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders. Do you agree with that statement? Trump goes, "You're going to have to speak with the lawyers. I have nothing to do with it. Go and ask them." Here, play this clip.
Are you trying to remove him, Mr. President?
Do you have a question?
Mr. President, yesterday Judge Boasberg, in a case against your administration, said the Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial order. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, you're going to have to speak to the lawyers. We have great lawyers. I can tell you this, we're doing a fantastic job of getting criminals out of this country who Biden allowed into the country. Hundreds of thousands of criminals, murderers and drug dealers. And I was elected because of the fact, I would say maybe that was the number one fact for a lot of reasons, the economy, a lot of things. But one of the primary reasons I was elected is because I said, I'm going to get the criminals that he allowed. I'm going to get them out. And I got a lot of votes, record-setting numbers of votes. As you know, we won everything. The popular vote, all 7 swing states, we won everything. And that's what the public wanted. That's what I'm doing. But you'll have to speak to the lawyers because it's up to them.
So then, Donald Trump is asked again yesterday, are you going to facilitate the return of Abrego, Donald? Because a lot of people are saying that when you kidnapped a migrant with no criminal history and sent him to an extermination camp in El Salvador, despite there being a withholding order saying you can't do that, and now the Supreme Court in a 9-0 ruling slapped you down, Donald. Slapped you down. What you gonna do? Donald Trump goes, I don't know. You're going to have to ask the lawyers. I have nothing to do with this. Ask the lawyers. Play this clip.
Okay.
Mr. President, we have a great relationship with the president of El Salvador. Will you ask him to release Abrego Garcia so that you can facilitate his return here to the United States? And do you believe he deserves due process here?
Well, I must tell you, I have to refer again to the lawyers. I'll have to do what they ask me to do. I had heard that there were a lot of things about a certain gentleman, perhaps it was that gentleman, that would make that case be a case that's easily winnable on appeal. So we'll just have to see. I'm going to have to respond to the lawyers.
Mr. President, we're learning that there are now 2 deceased following that shooting.
Okay, Donald, so let me get this straight. You had Nayib Bukele, the leader of El Salvador, with you. You both played dumb and said, nothing we can do at all here. And now you're saying, just ask the lawyers. The lawyers know. Now, there's a whole line of history here again of Trump doing this with lawyers. Michael Cohen, of course, who literally went to jail. Trump threw him in solitary confinement for like 50 plus days as well when he refused to sign something from the probation department that would have also prevented him from releasing his book. But then there's even stuff like, remember when Donald Trump was found liable for sexual abuse in federal court in New York? His lawyer, Joe Tacopina, and remember Trump didn't show up to testify, even though Trump said, remember Trump ran away to where was he, in Scotland and Ireland during the E. Jean Carroll sexual assault trial, and Trump refused to show back up to New York. And Joe Tacopina, all things considered, did a pretty good job for Donald Trump. That the verdict was only $5 million, and then the subsequent trial that Alina Habba handled, what was that, a $95 million verdict or something just on the defamation? So Tacopina kept a sexual abuse verdict to $5 million when Alina Habba got a 15, 20x that because she's a horrible lawyer who's now the United States attorney in New Jersey. But what's his name? He quit. Tacopina quit representing Donald Trump. Remember, he went on Al Sharpton and he explained why he quit. Here, play this clip.
Why would you leave the team?
By the way, it's the first and only interview, Reverend, that I'll be doing on this topic. Okay, you're someone obviously very special to me and someone I have a relationship with, and I'm going to discuss it once and only once to the degree I can. I left the team because it was just my time. I had to follow my compass. And my compass told me it was my time there was done. There are a lot of personal reasons that went into that, things that I can and won't discuss. I also have ASAP Rocky's trial coming up this year, which is going to take most of my year. The attention that's going to be put into that case, there's a lot riding on that for that young man, his wife, and his family. But there are personal reasons. And you know, as much as I'd love to discuss them, I just can't, because while I see many lawyers, ex-lawyers of the president, go on television once they're removed from the team or leave the team and discuss him and his legal team and have something to say and criticize everyone around, it's not professional. It's petty ante. It shows a lack of confidence in oneself when you go out there and do that. There's also a fiduciary obligation. So regardless of how I feel personally, I have to stay close to the vest when it comes to the exact personal reasons. Reverend, you and I are very close. We can always talk about that. But I just don't want to be like the lawyers who do things that, in my opinion, make them look very bad and violate what an attorney's privileges mean to a client, whether you are with the client or no longer with the client, whether you like the client or don't like the client. But I just had to follow my compass, and it was my time.
You know, the interesting thing that's not getting enough attention in the reporting of Abrego Garcia showing signs of life, Democratic Senator Van Hollen heroically met with Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. They were photographed together after the Trump regime was mocking Van Hollen and posting meme and AI images of himself with tattoos on his face and MS-13 tattoos on his face, and just, you know, overall just kind of mocking him. Senator Chris Van Hollen met with Abrego Garcia. And I know that, like, Nayib Bukele is trying to be like, this was perfect chess. You know what happened? One of the main things that happened when this story is told, you want me to tell you? There was a DOJ revolt taking place. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, this isn't being reported anywhere else, and I have contacts there, but also use your common sense of what's happening there. These lawyers are like, you're throwing us under the bus? Show we need to submit something to the judge to show progress, or else we're going to lose our licenses. And so we're not going to be able to do the other things you want us to do. So what Boasberg did, in my view, what Judge Zinnes did, in my view, was the perfect 1-2 punch. Apply the pressure on the lawyers. Then Trump, in Trumpian fashion, throws them under the bus. They revolt and say, we're done. Mass resignations if you don't show signs of life. Boom. Then they show the sign of life. But that, you see what's happening here? And I know Bukele and Trump want to be like, oh, this is strength. This shows how, checkmate. Okay. Checkmate, sure. I just want to make sure there's due process. If y'all want to be like, checkmate, okay, fine. We just want due process for people. We live in a country of due process, of habeas corpus in the United States. Okay, someone's found guilty, they're guilty. If they're a bad guy, put them through a trial, they're a bad guy. I want to see the maximum law and order applied. We go through process. That's our country. You like it, you don't like it, whatever. That's our process. That's what we have. We have a constitution. Thank you. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.meidastouch.com.